What's up guys, Will here with Rennthusiast, my YouTube channel that is about Porsche ownership. And if you've been around for a little while, then you'll know that I recently picked up a dream car of mine, a 1976 midyear Porsche in ice green metallic with the 3.2 motor swap. This is a car that, as I've shared in previous videos, is very special to me. I just think it brings together so much that I love about these cars. The 3.2 motor, the comfort of a G body, but some touches from the early cars like the bright work and the rear pop-out windows. But that's not what this video is about. I'm not here to drool over the car. I'm here to share with you guys a very unfortunate turn of events that has come down with this car. So I've had the car for a couple months and I've noticed a vibration coming from the car whenever I'm driving it, sitting still. Anytime I give it some gas, you can kind of feel a shimmy in the car. And initially I thought, and a couple of my mechanics thought, that it was a result of a harmonic resonance coming from the fab-speed exhaust that was stuffed up under the rear end of the car. And so we tried to address that, and unfortunately we've determined that that's not the source of the vibration. Instead, it's something that I think all of us as owners, if you are an owner, would not want to hear, which is it is a problem with a major component of the car, the transmission. And so in today's video, I'm going to take you through a walkthrough of the car at my mechanic's shop. We've got the motor out, we've got the transmission out, and so we'll talk you through where we are, what we have discovered, what the plan for the car is. And I'm going to do what I do, which is get this car absolutely right. Now, while we were there together, the topic of cylinder head studs came up. And so if you're familiar with these cars at all, then you'll know that those studs can break in the 3 liters and sometimes in the 3.2 motors. And while the engine is out on my car, I thought we should examine those. And it is very scary to think about broken head studs because you're talking about a full rebuild. So at the end of this video, my mechanic will pull the valve covers off and we'll check to see if the cylinder head studs are bad. Before we get into that, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to this channel. I'd love to have you follow along on this journey. At the very end of this process of sorting this 76, I'm going to share with you guys exactly how much it cost me. Something else I'd like to point out for you is if you go down below in the description, you're going to see my merchandise shelf, and I've added a couple cool things that I think you guys will like, and so go check that out. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and just jump into the shop walkthrough. Okay guys, as I shared with you in the intro, we are back here again at my good friend Charles's shop here in Greensboro, North Carolina. The Porsche 76 is up on the lift. As you can see, the motor is out and the transmission is out. And so it looks like we're gonna do the same thing we did with my 964 with this 76. And with that said, Charles is gonna walk us through where we are, what the plans are for the motor while it's out of the car. And of course, we're gonna have to ship this out. So Charles, I'll turn it over to you.
So in any event, Will came in, he had a problem with the vibration in the car. We did find where the exhaust was hitting against the body of the car. It's a fab speed exhaust, and we just had to do a little modification, and that took care of that. But the vibration is there. Then as we went through everything, we find that the transmission has a bit of a noise and a thunk to it. It seems like there's either a bearing going bad somewhere in it that's causing it to shake or vibrate. So we're going to send that out and we're going to get that repaired. And in the meantime, we're going to take care of some other things. We're going to replace this rear main seal because it's all wet at the bottom down here. You can see the fluid right there on it. And just tidy up the car. We're going to do a valve adjustment, make sure everything's good. We'll clean up everything that we can get our hands on.
Yeah, so Charles mentioned 2 words to me earlier that really scared me. Head studs.
Head studs, yes.
Head studs.
Well,
so
we always check them, especially on an older car. You just, when you're doing the valve adjustment, you take a magnet, you put it up there and just try to see if it moves. You don't try to readjust them or tighten them or anything like that, because that's when things go bad. Common thing in the older cars, not so much on the later ones, the 3.2s.
So for those of you watching this video, please send me some good vibes and some prayers, because I do not want to get into a full rebuild. I mean, partially it's about the money, but it's also about the downtime and just how long it's taken to get parts.
Yeah, so true. Most of the easy stuff is just easy to grab a hold of, and valve covers and stuff, gaskets and stuff like that. But once we know about how solid the motor is, then we can talk about all the other things. Hey, what the while we have it out stuff, let's go ahead and do this and do that. And the main concern right now is just to make sure the motor is healthy, nothing wrong with it, and we'll do the valve adjustment. Just go over everything.
And if you guys are new to this, the whole idea, you probably, when I say new to this, I mean new to air-cooled ownership. I mean, you pay the money to drop the motor, $1,200 to $1,500. The old while you're in there just makes sense because you don't want to spend another $1,200 to $1,500 to pick apart little issues, right? It's like, you know, let's do some preventative stuff and just clean everything up. So it hurts, but it just makes sense. So what are you thinking, Charles? Let's imagine for a moment that the motor's sound, no head stud issues. Like, what are we going to attack? I mean, I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, I just think that once we know about how solid the motor is, we can just go ahead and talk about just cleaning up everything and making it look pretty so it runs well and looks good. While, you know, you open up your engine compartment and go, hey, look, how pretty.
And that's like what I'm looking to do. I know you have your intakes over there. Charles is in the middle of rebuilding his 3.2 to a 3.4. Yeah. Will you just show me those? I mean, he's going next level because he can.
Yeah. So this is all glass bead and cleaned up, and then we just polished the tops of these. Did it on both the intakes, and then the valve covers. We kind of do the same thing. Hopefully you can see how shiny it is. I'm trying to move it around so that you might get the reflection of the light. And the same with the lowers. It's just little touches that probably nobody will ever see, but I will every time I look in.
That's it. And so if we can get through like the mechanical soundness of this engine, I'd love to get to a place where I have enough budget left to do some of those things as well, because I think the car deserves it. I mean, it's a beautiful car. For the reasons I've shared with you in earlier videos. I mean, I love the car. I think it's a long-term keeper, so we're going to get it done right. Yeah, here, he wants to reveal where his engine is, just while we're at it.
Getting back together. Stay. So you can see everything's cleaned up and taken care of. Little extra specials, you know, you polish all this stuff up, and this is all cleaned up and then clear coated. It's got new chains, new intermediate gears, everything's new on it. Cams are being done by Doherty. They're a special grind. He does 993 Super Sports, which should be better than the 964 cams that were in it. So it should be a fun car.
And by the way, it's going to end up in this Baltic blue car over here. That's Charles's personal car.
So let's walk around to the back here. It'll be easier just to do it from this point. Watch your head.
Gotcha.
So a couple of things. That's what the hose is supposed to look like, a red hose, but it's torn, so replace that. This one's a paper one, and we'll make it match that side. Just little things. There was no gaskets on the transducer, so they were oozing, but the oil's real thin on it. So we'll take and rebuild, you know, the inner and outer CV joints on it and make that all good. The rest of it looks good.
And that's what I wanted to hear from you, like your overall opinion on the car, notwithstanding the standard issue stuff that I'm dealing with, the sorting stuff. I mean, what do you think?
Well, everything, you know, there's no rust on the car that we could find. Forgot to mention, clutch cable's old and needs to be replaced. It's stretched out. But it's a real solid car. The work done on it works really well. We're going to touch up a few things here and there, some fuel lines, and just to make it our standards as opposed to somebody else's, but everything looks really good. Well,
and guys, I'm trying to find some bright spots in this. So I mean, I've been around the block long enough with these cars to not be surprised. I mean, this is going to be an expensive endeavor, but I think the car deserves it.
It really deserves it, because it'll be really nice and you'll have a ton of fun with it.
And that's the thing, the 3.2 in this lighter car is awesome, but I think, so let me tell you about the plan. The plan is this: Charles does not have room to store the car while the gearbox is shipped off to Autometrics in Charleston, South Carolina, and so I'm going to have to take this car to the house. And so, you know, the bright spot is I think I'll spend some time detailing it, trying to get this engine bay to look really nice. So as long as we have budget to make the engine look nice, it'll be sitting in a very beautiful engine bay, and I think it'll complete the car.
The upper head studs look intact on this side.
All right. So is that 25% of it?
Yeah.
1/4.
Usually when a stud's broke, when you pull this lower valve cover off, it's laying inside the valve cover.
That's good.
On this side,
50%.
Yeah, looking at these rocker shafts here, the way they're protruding, where they weren't reinstalled properly, is an indication that the cams have been out, and when you pull the cams out, normally, you know, the heads have been off.
Well, let's hope that's a promising sign. I need some good news. All right, let's look at this.
You see that one back there? Is that one in?
Yep, it's there.
Okay, so
75% of the way there.
75%.
I love it when the gasket sticks one way, it sticks the other way.
Massive anxiety right this moment.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, like
Well,
I said, they would normally fall out. They'd be in the bottom of the valve cover there.
They're still there.
So we're good.
Yes.
100%. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thanks, guys, for doing this. So I hope that you stick around for this journey. If you're looking to get into air-cooled, this will be a kind of a reality check of what it's like. If you're a seasoned owner, then I'd love for you to follow along and just, you know, you can probably relate. And I'm sure that there are guys out there that are going to tell me, hey, I do all my own work and I save so much money. If you're one of those guys, congratulations. I'm not. I was just talking to Charles about this, like seeing a motor come apart, or I was watching a video on taking this 915 apart, just gives me massive anxiety. I can't imagine putting it back together. So this is the first video of several I'll do on this process. If you're still with me, I appreciate you sticking around, and hope to see you next time.